Hey folks, walk with me. Well, we're in the early morning hours of Tuesday, March 25th. And I say that because, for one, my image is going to appear and disappear periodically because the sun has not risen yet. But also, I'm putting this video out into the future to either prove a point or to happily prove myself wrong. Now here's the point that I'm trying to prove. We were just, I believe it was yesterday, handed the story about the Atlantic reporter who was added to the group signal chat discussing the strike in Yemen on the Houthis. And when the Epstein file debacle came out, remember that? With the binders given to social media influencers that contained information that was already out, right? This days after Pam Bondi said that there was a truckload of information delivered to her and that the some sick information was sitting on her desk, right? And then they put out binders, this big dog and pony show that amounted to things that had already been released, some of which had previously been released unredacted, and then they redacted it and stuffed it in this binder and pretended like this was some phase one. When that happened, I said, watch for what they're going to do to try to move the news cycle off of this. They're going to have to throw up some crazy stuff, which is part and parcel for the administration, in order to just move the news cycle off of this and stop getting hammered on it. And mostly I thought that they cared because their base seemed to actually be pissed about it. I don't think they really care if the news media cares about it. So then you saw that blow up in the Oval Office with Zelensky, and that one stands out, but there were certainly some other things as well. I can't remember, probably ongoing nonsense with Canada and whatever. Now we have this signal thing with the Atlantic, and it's picking up some steam. I notice in this realm, there doesn't seem to be a lot of pushback from their base, which does make me wonder if they're going to care at all about this. They may not. But what I do notice is sort of their base having a really hard time. Or, these Epstein binder social media influencer types having a really hard time coming up with an excuse. So they're mostly just ignoring it, from what I can tell. Or they're putting out some wild stuff like, oh, I think that reporter was added on purpose so that Europe would know how disappointed the U.S. is with them not, paying us enough money to open up shipping lanes or something. And it's like, oh yeah, Europe doesn't know that this administration is really hostile toward them. What are you talking about? But in any case, so they're either coming up with wild excuses like that, like this is some 84D chess move, or they're just silent about it. So I do think there's a chance that the administration, they just ignore it, right? They have no shame. They have no desire to seem accountable to anyone about anything, other than, to some degree, that fevered pitch base of theirs, which again, that's why I think the Epstein file debacle stood out so much. But what they might care about is just this sort of vacuum that this story is creating, and they probably want to fill it with something. Vacuum in the sense of again, their base not knowing what to say, or their influencers not knowing what to say, or just putting out absolute garbage nonsense. So I'm tossing this video into the future to say, what was it? What happened? What was the big thing? What was the big manufactured scene or sequence or series of events that Trump or Trump allies put out there in order to move this news cycle off of the signal thing? And yeah, maybe I'm wrong, that this won't warrant that kind of reaction. But that's the testing of this throwing the video into the future. Because I do think, I don't give Trump a lot of credit on a lot of things, but one thing that he is very good at is manipulating the media and moving the news cycle off of things he doesn't want it to be on and onto things that he does. And I think his first term only served to further develop that skill, if you will. I think it made him more rigid in the sense of feeling that is an important structure which he must uphold, and be very proactive about. I think in his first admin, he was maybe a little bit more lackadaisical about it. But I think if his own first administration taught him anything, it was to be much more heavy-handed about everything. So that's my question. Pop it in the comments if you're reading this and something did come up. My hope is that I'm just wrong and that nothing came up, and that either this is still getting some pressure, and again, I think if it does get pressure, the admin's just not going to care. They're just going to be like, yeah, whatever. It's not an issue. But yeah, that's my hope, is that they didn't do anything to move the news cycle off because they didn't think it warranted it. And I honestly don't think at this point that they would try to move the news cycle off and fail. I think that the media and whomever is that gullible, that and the attention spans are so short that they will just flip on over to whatever he wants the next thing to be, or whatever he wants the distraction to be. But yeah, pop it in the comments if you know what it was or what it has been by now, or if I'm wrong, then let's see how long this persists in the news cycle by them just saying like, yeah, it happened, but who cares? You can't do anything about it. Move on. And if it does persist for a long time in the news cycle, does that in and of itself become problematic and a reason for them to say, you know what, we got to move this out of the news cycle because it's been in here now for a week, and we're going to keep saying, you can't do anything about it, go away, stop talking about it, and they're just going to keep talking about it. So let's pick our next target, our next point of chaos, and let's get the ball rolling. But yeah, time will tell, but it is interesting to be able to throw these videos out into the future this way, and schedule them and see what happens between now, which again is pre-sunrise hours of March 25th, and the day that this comes out, which I believe will be Thursday the 27th or Friday the 28th maybe. Alright folks, well if you watched along or walked with me this far, I certainly appreciate it, and as always I will see you in the next video.